wake up with a smile, and then in a while come to lunch with the ladies. Lunch with the ladies. Lunch with the ladies. Lunch with the ladies.
Doing a little SAT prep with McCourtney Court. Such a big year for her. These poor kids. So much pressure.
Is that a tattoo?
You have one?
A discreet one?
FML.
Excuse me?
My life.
Oh, she's hanging out with the wrong crowd. The, fast ones. They're a bad influence. They're drinking. Mom. I know they are, because I'm friends with all their moms. I installed an app in her phone to track her.
Big Mother is watching.
In this episode, Susie talks to writer-director and super Libby Caytha Jentis. She'll tell us all about her films, her plays, and her series, The Other F Word. We'll also find out what activities she's doing now that very few ladies of any age dare to do. So, let's get talking.
Welcome to the Libby Show. Today is a special one-on-one episode with a super Libby. Her name is Caytha Jentis, and we call her that because she's done an awful lot and has a great message for everyone. And what she's done, a lot of it, career-wise anyway, has happened later in life. Caytha Jentis is a playwright, essayist, screenwriter, and film producer. She lets the story dictate the medium. She has written 5 produced feature films. Most recently, she had her stage play, Sex Work, Sex Play, open off-Broadway, and now it's coming to New Jersey. She has had several essays published, including her latest, Diary of an Old Aerialist, and we'll find out what that is on the show. Her midlife rally cry, which I just love, is fun never gets old. So very happy today to talk to Super Libby, Caytha Jentis. Caytha, welcome to the show. So, Caytha, great to talk to you. I've known Caytha for quite some time. We'll talk about that. But you have done so much, and I'm late to the business. You were in the business a lot sooner than I was. Ben, I was just so impressed with everything that you've done and what you had done even before I met you. So just give me a quick rundown of all the films and projects that you worked on.
Yeah, well, and again, I feel like, our journeys aren't that different in terms of kind of starting our film career in midlife. So, I started a little bit earlier, and I had worked in the movie business in my 20s and went to UCLA, had an MFA in screenwriting, part of my background, and then had kids. And it was just too hard, especially in Los Angeles, with little babies and being a mother, to manage both. So I kind of took a little pause, and I would say it was about 10 years or so later, in my early 40s, I started, I kind of had, which I'm going to be part of a storytelling event called Listen to Your Mother in New York City on May 11th. And which I call my mommy midlife crisis, where I kind of hit the wall of like, how did I become this person? And, being like driving carpools, and I had always kind of worked, but it was always hard to manage that. So my first film, which something I independently produced, was called And Then Came Love. And it starred Vanessa Williams and Eartha Kitt, Michael Boatman, and Kevin Daniels, who has a new film coming out. Something Church Mom, and it sounds really fun. And Anna Camp, it was one of Anna Camp's first films. And then I did that, and then I made a little micro film called The One, and then I wrote a stage play called It's All About the Kids, which won the New Jersey Playwrights Contest and had a 2-week production. And then and it dealt with like kind of the insanity of suburban sports culture. And so many of the people who saw it were like, Caytha, I can't get your play out of my mind. This needs to be a movie. And I'm like, no, it's a play. They're like, no, it's a movie. So that became the film Bad Parents, that had Janine Garofalo and Sherry O'Terry and Christopher Titus and Michael Boatman, who was there, and also my first film. And then after that, I'd written a film for film that somebody else made called Exposed. And then, and then I wanted to look at life after kids because I kind of was dealing with hyper parenting. And that's, I think, when we met was on The Other F Word. And that was my next thing, which felt episodic more than a linear story, just of a journey of women kind of find themselves in reinvention and where we come first. Because I kind of always believed up until kind of midlife, our kids, our boss, our spouse, our parents always took, our priority. It seemed like all of a sudden, again, even if you didn't have kids, all of a sudden there's this time in your life where you sort of take charge. And that was that. Then I did a film called Pooling to Paradise, and then Sex Work, Sex Play, and kind of brings us up. So, and then, within that, I've done some short films and written some essays, and that's my bio.
Yeah, it's an awful lot. And actually, if we go a little further back than The Other F Word, it was for bad parents, because I had gone to a
that's
film
right.
festival screening. And I love that because I was the suburban mom, not with soccer, a little bit of soccer, but mostly baseball. And it so resonated with me because
That's
it's what we were
right.
going through.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot that's, kind of where we met, but we got more in the weeds on The Other F Word, and you were very helpful in getting us Alicia Reiner and being a little bit of background and just supporting it the way you do everything. So
Thank you. Thank you. Well, this is what the show is about, that I hope it's lessons and inspiration for women that you can do things with the family, and then your family gets a little older, things just change every step of the way. I'm dealing now with my kids are out of the house and my husband is back in the house because he's working remotely. So it never stays the same, but you have to keep doing what you're doing and find some way to make it work. So I know that when you were doing things, since you had started at a later age, and I know you had many trips out to LA and trying to get your series and your films distributed and picked up and stuff like that, and you encountered a lot of ageism and sexism. Can you tell me about that?
Well, I mean, honestly, and again, it's been, what do you say, like a cross to bear? Because like even after that first film, I had interest in it, and it was really the dawn of independent film. And I made a movie. I had stars. My first film, kind of didn't know what I was doing, but we got a deal with Warner Brothers. And I was like, yes, I'm back. And nobody cared. And I also think to add to gendered ageism is what they call the motherhood penalty. And I felt like I was living in suburbia as a writer, telling stories about motherhood. And I felt like that was another challenge. And I learned that when I was doing kind of some grassroots marketing on The Other F Word, that Bad Moms, now my film was Bad Parents, which came out before Bad Moms, but Bad Moms, which everybody knows that film with Mila Kunis and who else was in it? Anyway, they actually, and first of all, that was written by men. So that was interesting to me that Bad Moms was written by men. But meanwhile, they dealt with a lot of resistance that people wouldn't fund it because they're like, oh, mothers are too busy to go to the movies. And it was actually the Blogger Network, because it had a soft opening, and the Blogger Network fell in love with the movie. And it was kind of moms that helped make that movie a success, which was kind of what, I kind of learned too. But yeah, no, when I did The Other F Word, and it was the cognitive dissonance. I mean, I did everything in that self-distribution space because everybody's like, oh, it's a tough demographic. It's a tough demographic. I'm like, what are you talking about?
No, that's who's watching TV. They want
to. But that was code. That was code for anybody, like literally, like I think it was like 35 or 39 was where advertisers said, and they would say, oh, well, anything, it's a tough demographic. I mean, what are you talking about? Oh, well, they're not watching YouTube at the time. I'm like, well, you're not giving them anything on YouTube. And then there's well, they're setting their buying decisions, so advertisers don't want to, I mean, there was all this basically untruths. And I think that has somewhat changed, that they can't get away with that. And I also think there was a little bit of baby boomer pushback. And then it was like when it became Gen X, it sort of got a little softer when people like Jennifer Aniston were turning 50. But regardless, it's still for writers, and in television writing, to be an older emerging writer, it's very, there's a challenge. So, I did run into it, but I think, as we all know, what we're doing in this entertainment business is hard and everybody has challenges, and you could either give up or you just find a way. And that's, again, what you and I have done. We found ways, and the sort of direct to consumer model has really it's not as, what's the word, looked down upon, because it used to be, oh, it's vanity, but now it's just like, no, it's a way to connect with an audience. And again, it's in every medium, and especially, and that's why I put The Other F Word on Amazon, because I saw in book publishing, you'd have a Random House book next to a self-published book, and you wouldn't know which was which.
Well,
And
music also. People
of course,
upload.
yeah,
So
yeah.
everything's changed. It's not vanity anymore. And they're just as respected. And I remember when local newspapers would only cover books and things that were traditionally published, and now they don't. Doesn't matter.
Well, and again, that's where the younger people kind of helped us all. And again, we pushed it down, they pushed it up, where platforms like TikTok and whatever are ways that music is introduced. And again, it's sadly, which again has nothing to do with anything, the arts is a very challenging way to make a living. You can make some living, you can do it for passion, and it's very hard. And that's a challenge that young people really face, is how do I be a sustainable artist? And the industry, is not really in our country set up for that model. And, except for a very small percentage that succeed. But independent film, which again, in a way, is you're raising the money somehow to make a movie, put it in the marketplace, and and that's what's expected, is that the artists take the risk.
Yeah, and I think things have changed, and I think if people want to get into the industry as they're older, you can't go in it for the money. You got to go in it for the passion. It's a second career, because I get a lot of young people coming to me with scripts and thinking that Netflix is going to give them $4 million for their movies, and it's just not true. Because everything's changed, and there does need to be a better model for anyone, whether you're an artist, or you're a music artist, or you're an actor. There's got to be, it's very difficult. You need a side hustle, you need a main job, because everything's broken right now.
It's the gig economy. I mean, and again, there's many, especially like performers, Broadway performers, all of them have other sources of income, and same with musicians. I went to, and I forgot what group it was, maybe San Ferman or Furman, and they were at Brooklyn Steel with a huge audience, and they're all, one was a graphic designer by day. I mean, these were people with record labels that could fill Brooklyn Steel, and they still needed other sources of income. So that is something, sadly, we can't fix, but we need art, and that's important. Art and culture are so important to to the humanity.
It is. They are. Yes, they are. So, Caytha, I want to circle back to The Other F Word, because I think that's what resonates to a lot of our viewers. I love Sex and the City. I love And Just Like That. Tell me what the premise of The Other F Word, and where we can see it right now.
Well, right now you can't see it, but the other F, because we're looking, so to backpedal. So when like I said, I write from what I call heightened reality, social commentary. And, lots of times, again, which is such a, it's dramedy. So it's, I write humor, but it's very much from real life drama. So I wanted to, whatever it was, like 8 years ago, I was like, okay, well, I guess it's more now that I think of how old I am, but in my early 50s, I was like, okay, turning 50, having kids get older or leave, being an empty nester, I just found this as a profound stage of life. And my model actually was more girls, more than Sex in the City. And that was very popular at the time, as was Broad City, and why I did the web series model. But I was like, okay, well, these girls because they were girls, because they really aren't girls, young women were in Brooklyn figuring out who they were. I was like, their mothers are wherever they are, figuring out who they are too. And what I liked about, because again, Sex and the City was initially all about, you know, dating and finding men and stuff
Very
like
young
that.
people.
And the pilot really was about finding Prince Charming. And I was like, well, I feel like, and again, I wanted to have relationships and romance and not have everybody. And, you know, I have a single, like I had all different types of relationships, but I wanted to really deal with women finding themselves. And I was just like, and then I really had this premise that coming of age really does happen in midlife, to what I'd said before, because then you know yourself. And I feel like when you're younger, it's very reactionary. And in film school, you do learn about the midway point is when the character goes from reacting to acting. And that's where I felt like we were, and it literally is around page 50. So I was like, okay, we're in our life page 50.
Irony.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, well, we're like going, okay, you know, I'm going to take action now. But there is the, what, who am I? So that was what I wanted to do as my kind of underlining premise of it. We are in the process of taking it, sprucing it up a little bit. And instead of having them as short episodes, we have 5 half-hour episodes, and we are going to go to market to try to get a streamer, given, you know, we have Steve Guttenberg and Judy Gold and Alicia Reiner, thanks to Suzanne, and Michael Boatman, and, you know, and our 4 women are just so talented. Reiko Allsworth, who people might remember from 24, but, and the soaps.
Yeah.
And so, and Holly Kate, I believe, was in a soap opera too. And Leanne is very, anyway, we have really talented actors.
Yeah.
And so we're hoping that we can get like a limited series kind of deal on some streaming platform.
Good.
But we just are in the process of re-editing it.
Got it. Got it. Makes sense. So I want to go on to now. You write a lot. I'm always getting your emails of what you're writing. I went to see your play in the city, Sex Work, Sex Play. Tell me, just tell me what inspired you to do that. And now it's being produced in New Jersey, right?
Yeah. And I'm
Getting on
hoping,
the road.
fingers crossed, that we get more theaters, because it's a totally different thing than film, the theater experience. So yeah, no, I wanted to look, I mean, in a really short way, like look at how the internet has impacted relationships. And there was a lot in the universe about things like OnlyFans and popularity of porn. And I also I was dealing with, okay, and also what's like 4th wave feminism, and how many young girls in particular were sugar babies, and what was all that about. So I wanted to take all of that, and then, but ultimately, my story is ultimately, because I started it with a monologue that I did for a theater company on this sex worker with a heart of gold, and a male sex worker, because that was just, you know, this guy who's looking for romantic love. And but the, you know, the punchline is that he's a sex worker. And to that, for me, I'm like, okay, porn sells a very unrealistic look at sex. And I thought, well, in many ways, social media right now is showing a very unrealistic look at
People.
love and romance, with these promposals, everything, and people's engagements. It makes it all seem unattainable. So I thought of those, you know, put them together. And then my story is, I'm like, okay, who's going to lead this world, this story? I'm like, it's going to be a mother. How do I not have a mother as the main story? And I thought, well, who's down on love? I have these young people in this story, you know, kind of having their points of view towards relationships. I'm like, oh, a divorced middle-aged mother. She's the perfect person who would be down on love, because I was finding young people and older people were struggling with finding, you know, good relationships. And I find people our age have a harder, you know, go at it, finding somebody that's an ideal mate for them.
Well, it's also the statistics, knowing many single women,
Yes.
the statistics in this area of single men versus single women.
Exactly. Yeah, well, I didn't want to take anybody down, but let's just say it's hard. Don't want to take a gender down, but it's very hard. And so yeah, so I wanted to look at all that. And again, it's very farcical and has a feel of crazy, stupid love where it's, you know, all the people ultimately are connected. So it's a little provocative sounding, but everything I do is kind of has heart, and again, it's very much based on reality. Everything in it is all based on research. It's not salacious or, you know, anything like that.
Right. Well, good luck with that. I'm glad you're taking it on the road. Another lesson to anyone watching of, you know, you can just go do it. Doesn't matter the age. Pick a topic, write about it. Of course, Kate has got so much writing experience, but that's something else that we talk about on the show. Go take a class, go find a mentor, go join a group.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Another thing I want to talk to you about, because I saw these pictures on social media and I'm like, what is she doing now? Tell everybody what you're doing now.
Well, I'm an aerialist because first of all, I believe so one of the things it says, like, I live life for the story. And so sometimes I do things, and it really did start out of the other F word of like just being and all this stuff, having no fear and no regrets. And I've been to a lot of performance art, and I saw Aerialists, and I was like, you know what, I want to try that. And it is a very popular art form now. So there's a place in by Penn Station that is a studio, and I've been doing it, and I call it my year of grace because I have been a lifelong athlete, but I've never been like a dance person. So I'm learning dance. And then Next Tribe, which is this amazing organization that does travel for women over 45, and also has a magazine. I went to Cuba with them, and then Jeannie Ralston is the editor, and it's like, again, they do a lot of midlife stories. So I wrote an essay just about the journey, and that's, I think, coming out tomorrow. So I call it Diary of an Old Aerialist. And some of my friends are like, Caytha, you're not old. I'm like, no, I'm embracing old, because it doesn't have to necessarily be a negatively charged word how you use it. Like, again, it's the whole thing. I could call myself old, you can't call me old.
Well, true, but it also would have done well calling it Diary of a New Aerialist, and then when they see it,
well, I wanted to embrace, I honestly wanted to, yes, I mean, I don't like to, I'm not somebody that is always like embracing my age. And when I was at the first class and I said, you know, I'm pretty old, they go, oh, please, we had an aerialist in their 60s who's doing it. I'm like, oh, good, you don't really know how old I am. So for me, I want people from an inspiration, because they may not, you know, you could see it, and I am in pretty good shape, not realize how old I am. So I thought if I embrace it, it works in my favor, actually, than saying a new aerialist.
True.
So I'm literally doing it to embrace that it's something one can try and do at any age. If you are I mean, it's not even, there's elements that are just, if you're in good, like a dancer, you could do it.
Well, as I was just going to say at the old disclaimers, check with your doctor before you do this. If you have osteoporosis, give it a second thought. But no, it's absolutely spectacular, and that's why you're a super Libby, because you're doing something like this.
Yeah. I mean, I also art modeled, which was an essay about art modeling. So that was, I did in my mid 50s. So, you know what, because I just was like, there's, sorry, my phone is ringing. So much, like, it's just like what I say, which is what you say. It's now or never. And like, obviously, if something's dangerous, but I don't really do dangerous things. Like, I would never, even though my show had skydiving, would never skydive, I don't like things where I lose control.
Right.
But I'm not afraid of failure, because not doing it is more failure than trying something and not being good at it.
Thank you. That is a super Libby phrase. I love it. Exactly. Thank you, Caytha. Okay, Caytha, now we're going to play what we like to call the Libby lightning round, get to know you a little bit. So a couple sentences, a couple words, a couple sentences to describe your answer. We're going to start with your top 3 favorite movies.
I get stumped by that because I know you want me to do it quick, but I mean, the ones I came up with, because in the comedy theme, I have Love Actually, Best in Show, and How to Marry a Millionaire. But it's so hard for a filmmaker to have top threes.
I know. Love Actually is in my top 3 also. I have the top 20. So it is a hard question for people that love film anyway.
Yes.
Okay, Caytha, last 2 or 3 series you've binged, and I'm going to start with I'm loving Palm Royale now.
And you stole that one from me. I'm loving Palm Royale too, and I'm re-watching Hacks. And the one that is maybe a little under the radar is this show called Fisk, which is a workplace comedy from Australia that takes place in a probate's office, and it is, legal office. It is the funniest thing, and I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix, so it's very available, and that's a lot of fun.
I'll try it. Okay, we have talked about this, but how you de-stress.
Yeah, I feel like it is it's through exercise, the dogs, and I'm going to say through human connection. I mean, I love connecting with people, especially meeting brand new people. So I'm the extrovert that de-stresses through people versus not people.
Yeah, I love meeting new people also, but then I'll need a couple days to just, absorb it all, and then I'm out in the world again. So that's great. And you're very fit, but when you do cheat on a meal, what do you go for?
Oh yeah, no, I eat everything and anything. I do like all that New Orleans food, like gumbo, and jambalaya. I don't know, does that count as cheating?
Not
And then
really. That's got
smash
all healthy stuff
burgers
in
are
it, Caytha.
pretty.
I'm looking for ice cream, cookies, pizza, McDonald's.
I know. Well, I mean, I'm definitely have a sweet tooth. So I have like chocolate at the end of, like, I'm trying not to have chocolate every night, but I'll do that little chocolate thing that many of us do, a little dark chocolate before bed.
Yeah, I actually asked an aunt who was in her 90s what, I always like to ask older women what their habits are, and I get the gamut, but a lot of them say a piece of chocolate every day.
Yeah.
Get a lot of other things too, but that's in there. Most essential item that you carry around with you?
My phone.
Okay. All right. What brings you joy?
Yeah, I feel like it is that human connection, and it brings me joy, is being with people that make me feel good. I think it's all about positive energy. My family, my dog, my husband, and then my friends. I mean, I feel, and I get so much joy from that when you feel positive energy.
Yeah, I always feel like going out with the girls for
Yeah.
dinner is like a therapy session. And I think it's something that the young people these days are truly missing out on, because it is not the same connecting over a screen or a phone as it is being out there. They're
Yeah.
just, it's the pendulum has to swing back somehow.
Yeah.
Best thing about being the age that you are right now, no need to say what that age is.
Yeah, I just feel like we don't give a shit anymore, and if I can say that word, but I just think it's just, that's the best thing, is this awareness that it's now or never, and also
Yes.
to live with less judgment of others. Like, live for, just be around people that make you feel good. And I think that's what's part of older. And what I always say, like in a clinically way, is like what Jung called authentication. And it's being, when you take the mask down and you're like, this is me. And it doesn't mean that we have this feeling of like ego. It's more like the opposite. It's just like the vulnerability place. It's just like, this is me, and take it or leave it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. And I think, again, I don't want to get into what I feel about social
Actually,
media.
it's individuation.
Okay. Okay. All right.
I
Well,
can correct that now. You don't have to, but it's individuation was Jung's term, which is not about self. It's about being comfortable with yourself that you can be there for others.
right. Right. And unfortunately, that does come at a later age. I wish it came with for me earlier. I think I'm still grasping it, especially now. So getting older, our looks are changing. So every stage is different, but I do wish I had the confidence I have now that I wish I had that 20, 30 years ago. Comes
Well,
with
Jung believes it happens in midlife, so.
Okay, so then we're both right on the mark. So, okay, Kate, so tell me now where people can find more about you, your socials, a website.
It's really easy now. It's Caytha.com. I
Ah,
got Caytha.com. That's one of the things with my weird name, Caytha.com. And if you could spell my name, you could pretty much find me anywhere.
okay, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Well, Kate, thanks for being on the show. You are a super Libby. And everyone go to Caytha.com, and I truly go look at the other F word. If you're in our age group, I think you'll like it the most. And Bad Parents, super movie, which is on, where can we find that now?
I feel like we've renewed the license on that because that's played everywhere. It's definitely on Apple TV right now.
Okay. Okay. Actually, I think I saw it there when I was scrolling through.
Yeah, it's going to come back on other platforms, but right now I know it's there.
Okay, but we can find this all on Caytha.com. Okay, got it. Well, thank you, Caytha. Lovely seeing you again, and I'll see you in person soon.
Yeah, we were talking about that. We can't do this on the on Zoom. Thank you so much for including me on the Libby show. As always, I admire everything you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You're a super Libby.
Oh, thank you. And as I say at the end of every show, every day, find some joy and give some joy. Thanks for watching.
Wake up with a smile, and then in a while, come to lunch with